So while your wife probably will be doing a forward fold, when it's time to go and do a handstand or to do an upward plank or to do a push-up, you'll be able to do that. You'll probably have the edge on her. So it all balances out in the wash. And then we work our way towards each other and we meet in the middle.
Oh, okay. Because believe it or not, we started out really strong in 2014 at LA Fitness. Yeah, that's a plug to LA Fitness. You guys need to throw something our way, LA Fitness. So we started off strong. But I tell you, I mean, a lot of people won't say this, Roz, but by mid-March, I was done.
Yeah.
I was done. She went, Pam went to about maybe May, and that was it. That was it. And we were talking over the holiday, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to cancel this LA Fitness stuff. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah, why don't we get an elliptical? And she was like, why don't we put it next to the Bowflex that is, all the clothes that are hanging on?
Well, I mean, don't give yourself. It's a hard thing. Listen, scheduling time. If if you're married and you're working and you have kids, it's a very difficult. And you have to cook and you have to grocery shop and you have to take the car in for breaks. This thing has to be scheduled, and it's a very hard thing to add something new into our already packed schedule. So. That's the thing about us as humans, which is a very broad statement. That's the thing about us as humans. But that's the thing about us as people. We make the goal and then we don't see it through. And then we feel so guilty about not seeing it through that it's hard for us to pick it back up. So, the thing I would just encourage folks, it is that time of the year where you're very gung-ho and you feel like you've got 1,000 extra hours to fit in this new cooking class you want to take, as well as this new workout class, all of the stuff we want to do. But be patient with yourself and understand that you're not a superhero, and that if you want to do it, you have to schedule it. So even if you can only schedule one class a week, then start out with scheduling one class a week and saying, this is the hour of this week that we're going to do it, and you can get it done. But just don't get so discouraged you forget about it altogether. That's the thing that kills you.
I got one more question about this, and then I would like to move on to the NBA really quick. What about the folks that, let's say, watch it on TV or have a DVD or I mean, is that available? Like
absolutely.
At the store. Oh, okay. So tell us a little bit about that.
There's a lot of opportunity to walk into, or and now my husband was giving me a hard time the other night. He's like, you've got to start making these videos because there's we saw on demand. There's a new channel now that's dedicated to working out, and yoga is a big part of it. There's an adult yoga workout as well as a kids. A very structured workout for children, and I mean like 4 or 5. Like these are young babies that are doing it, and so it's available. It's definitely available through your cable partner. There'll be whatever on the fitness channel. I've seen a lot of options there. Also, it's available on DVD. Some of the biggest stars in yoga: Rodney Yee, Sean Korn, Shiva Ray. I mean, these are some of the people that have came on the scene very early, maybe 20 years ago, and figured out a way to I don't want to say commercialize, but figured out a way to be the rock stars of the yoga industry. But they're very gifted teachers as well. I will say that for me, there was nothing like being in a class, though. I mean, and maybe it's just my attention span. Maybe I just can't do stuff at home, right? Because I'm like, okay, is this over yet? Because I got to go check on that, casserole I'm making.
Right.
So it's harder for me to do stuff at home. It was very different. Even the instruction. If you get in a class with a really gifted teacher that cares about teaching you how to do poses as well as making sure you protect yourself and you don't injure yourself, then there's nothing like that. And even so, there's all this instruction that you get on the DVD, but when you hear it in an actual class and a teacher's there with you, it was just a completely different experience to me. But I would definitely say DVD is a perfect way to introduce yourself to yoga and to the meditation and to the breath work, the entire science of it, and figure out if it's the route you want to go, and then go to a class and see how it goes.
Gotcha. I want to thank you for that information for our moms, our dads, all the above, because fitness is needed, and any way that you can get it is going to hopefully extend your life that much longer. I want to really quickly jump in. I know you and I are friends on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and I want to thank you for it. And I did see one of those pictures where you were doing a yoga stretch, and I was like, okay. It was like remarkable. I was like, but the one thing I want to ask you in regards to the NBA, and I know I talk a lot of smack on Twitter to you about my Knicks, and I really can't say too much now.
Oh, no, rough year for you guys. But you know what, let me just say, you are skating by. And I finally heard, I think I heard in passing, Stephen A. Smith say it this morning, people are giving L.A. way much more of a hard time than they are giving your Knicks, my friend. And the Knicks should really be ashamed of themselves.
I know.
Much more ashamed of themselves than the Lakers. But that's a different, I know you weren't going to ask me that, but I wanted to say that real quick.
Right. And it's only because of Phil Jackson, I think, the reason they're skating. That is the only reason I think right now they're getting a pass. But trust me, the Knicks faithful fans who like to boo will be out there, and that's including me, will be out there for 2015, 2016 because they got to get it together. But I will tell you this. So Kobe Bryant, who we love, who we respect, who some people revere, made some comments about AAU. And I know you, myself, Lee, Todd, and I think Murph and maybe a few others might have talked about this in the past. I know we talked about this because we talked about the state of basketball and how athletes that don't get it together, and then later on in their career, they become like, and I hate to put anyone out there, but they become like an Allen Iverson. And then where they're kind of like stuck. But this question is more based on what Kobe said, talking about AAU, talking about how training differs with Europe and here in America with us, where one is more team orientated, and one is just kind of like, the ISO mellow type ball, where give me the ball, I'm going to put on these moves, and hopefully there's a scout out there that's ready to give me whatever, or I can get a free ride to a school. And nothing's wrong with that, but I'm just saying, what are your thoughts, Roz, on Kobe's comments? And do you agree or disagree? And was there a better way to present it?
Well, I mean, there probably was a better way to present it, right? Because I think his comments at the time were born out of his frustration with the play at the end of the game where, he needed Jeremy Lin to make a foul, and for whatever reason, Jeremy missed the opportunity early in the shot clock to get it done. So I think right at that moment, and it's hard to even know if he was talking about Jeremy Lin with the statement, whether there was, whether he was actually throwing shade, I guess I could say, at Jeremy Lin. But I think it was born out of a very frustrating moment at the end of the game where they lost, and he saw an opportunity to win. And wins are definitely something that they're lacking right now. There's probably a better way to say it, but I absolutely agree with him because this is the way I think about AAU ball, the majority of it. I imagine that Joe Smith works a job, and he has a son who likes to play basketball. And Joe Smith's son, however, has a friend who's really gifted at basketball. I mean, really gifted. And out of that, the idea to have an AAU team is born. And from that, and because Joe Smith's son has a very gifted friend, this team is projected to do well, and many other gifted kids and their parents want to join this team and be a part of it, and this team does well, and now it's being watched by Nike and scouts and whatever. That's the way I actually see AAU happening organically in communities all over the U.S. And sometimes that's a very awesome thing. The problem is Joe Smith may not have ever actually been trained in basketball. I mean, he may have it. The likelihood is that Joe Smith likes the sport, can dribble, can make a shot, can do a layup, can hit a free throw. Maybe he's good from three. But actually teaching the fundamentals of a game is probably not his greatest strength. But he's just got these really gifted dribblers and shooters on his team. And, you know, that doesn't happen all the time. I mean, certainly we have Penny Hardaway has like the best AAU team going here in Memphis, and every kid in Memphis wants to be on the team. He's got like 100 kids broken up on 3 different teams. So that's not the case all the time with Joe Smith. Sometimes you got a Penny Hardaway. I guess my point is that, yes, there is – so when these kids get older and they end up going to college, these coaches end up at a different type of deficit than they used to before. So you get these kids that don't know anything about trapping a pick or hedging a pick or how to get the ball at the top of the key in a zone to make sure that you can move the offense through that zone defense effectively. So there are all these gaps in information that you see now that I don't think that we, you know, I guess you and I are around the same age, and when we were growing up, we didn't see a lot of that. But you see it now in these kids that are playing ball, and it's really a disadvantage for the kid and for the coaches that pick them up in college who had so much stuff that they were taking for granted that this kid probably knows, but they don't know because they haven't really had enough formal training because AAU dominated their early basketball life as opposed to, you know, their junior high coach and their high school coach making it happen for them. I think the game is in trouble in that way, and you hear a lot of the old school guys talking about how there's just not a lot of basketball knowledge. There's a lot of gifted athletes, but there's not a lot of basketball knowledge happening even at the NBA level at this point. And I'm sure it's very frustrating for a guy like Kobe, who actually is very gifted athletically, but if he hadn't been such a cerebral player, he wouldn't be in his 19th year in the league. And I think that's something that people need to respect and need to, you know, really take on his advice for that, because 19 years in, there's, you know, we're not Kobe. Number 8 Kobe is no longer with us. I mean, he doesn't.
Right.
Number 24 Kobe can't do anything, much of anything, from an athletic standpoint. The dunking, the crazy moves that number 8 used to give us. But he's still going strong, and he's still one of the best doing it. It's because he understands the game of basketball. And you wonder how guys are gonna, you know, I even think about that with LeBron James. How is it going to work out? He's such an athletic player. He is and LeBron's a smart basketball player, but, you know, there are times when you used to be able to see gaps in his game when he first came into the league. So I think it's a good warning, a stern warning to people who really do care about ball as opposed to people who just want to razzle and dazzle, you know, and dribble their lights out and then hit the game-winning three. There's so much more basketball that happens in between that. And I think some of these young players need to know that and respect it.
Roz, I got to tell you, you know you have to come back because we definitely have to sit down and talk. And, you know, I mean, there's so much on my mind in regards to – here's a question I keep asking, and no one wants to answer. And I'm going to go on an NBA show tomorrow night, and I'm going to pose the same question and say, Carmelo and LeBron, both of them were bulked up last year. During the off season, they lost a bunch of weight, and now you're noticing knee problems, back problems. What's up? Now, I don't want to say PEDs, but I just want to say, is it to the point where they log so many minutes? Is it to the point where, you know, their bodies are changing? Should they have not taken off the weight? You know, there's so many questions for someone that's as knowledgeable as you are, you know, that you can answer questions like that where I'm just sitting here like, what in the world's going on, and how come no one's talking about this type of stuff?
Well, and one big thing, and I will say this, and I know you're running out of time with me, but the reason that they did that is because of Kobe Bryant. You know, so, again, just to understand how much of an impact you know, how much we need to understand what we're seeing in the last days of Kobe. If you remember, right around the time in Kobe's career, it's when